Welcome to the Data Coffee Break podcast. I'm Marc.
And I'm Christian.
If you are passionate about data like us, take a seat, relax, and join us to our coffee break where we discuss all things data.
And remember, there are no filters, no PR.
It's just a real life experience. So let's begin. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. A lot of technical issues. I'm throwing away 2 headsets. My God. What a mess.
So, well, New Year, new headset, you know.
I didn't want to spend money this month, but that's
January,
done.
man. It's January. Yeah. But how are you, man? That's all good. You said you had good Christmas, good New Year's.
Yeah, no, good Christmas. Was back. I was working 2 days from my parents' place, and all the week of Christmas I was off.
When did you come back, actually?
I came back on Friday 29th. Did New Year here in London. Actually, on Saturday, I realized, because I thought that yesterday I was not working as well. I thought yesterday was a bank holiday.
Yeah.
And Saturday, I was looking at my calendar. I was like, I sent to everyone Marc bank holiday. But I look at the calendar, I was like, but on the 2nd, it shows...
the Scotland.
2nd of January, Scotland. Yeah. And I when I set up that, I didn't realize it was only for Scotland. I thought it was. So Saturday, I realized, okay, Tuesday, I have to work. And my colleagues obviously were surprised that I was online.
That's good. That's a good one. Yeah.
And you? What's... it's weird. I've been in UK for 7 years.
Yeah. But
discovering things.
I think it's Google Calendar shows it as a bank holiday, right? So okay, bank holiday, whatever. I mean, I think for everyone in the sales space, right, Q4 is always madness. It starts from October. So it was really packed, October, November, and then December, I took some time off to go to Mexico to visit the family. Came back to the UK on the 28th and start working on the 4th, so tomorrow. But no, all good. I mean, I am looking forward to this year, even though we say the same every year. I think this year is going to be interesting. I genuinely think this year is going to be interesting.
In which sense?
Well, there's a lot of things going on, politically speaking and technologically speaking as well, right? I mean, do you know what I mean? There is a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I forgot where I read that. And I forgot now the exact number, but it's something like in 2024, there is something like 2 billion people or maybe 4 billion people who are going to vote for some elections, maybe general elections kind of. So it's just politically from that perspective, there is a lot going on now.
But when there is such a big event like that, it permeates all the way to technology as well, right? Because technology it's like... I don't know how to say, it's so embedded within every decision we make that I'm pretty sure that, AI is going to play a role there. And I think this year will be the year that everyone adopts it some way or another. It will be generally adopted. I think GenAI, I mean, this is not an episode for data predictions from 2024, but in general, I think it's not crazy to say that this year more people will adopt AI.
All around, basically. It permeates the society. Actually, a question for you, because I have a friend, he's looking for a job, and he's already saying that a lot of, in particular, maybe more in the software development part, there is already a big gain in productivity, because he's struggling to get hired for a role. He needs a visa. That's a problem as well. But anyway, it's slow in terms of recruitment, because anyway, the companies are now already more performant in terms of software development, the one who are leveraging AI. I didn't read anything on that, but I'm not really following the trends on when it comes to software development.
Well, there are 2 things there, my opinion, right? Again, this is my opinion. One is that after the layoffs from last year, I believe that companies had to learn how to be more efficient with their software development teams. I've seen some trends, but definitely everywhere I go and I speak with data people, they are all talking about leveraging generative AI as a companion or assistant for coding. Esther, which you have met, right? She even has this trend to treat this GenAI assistant, code assistants, as your junior developer that you can actually teach, make it to the not the legwork, but like some sort of
speed up, improvement, review the code,
speed up. But I haven't seen like tangible results, maybe because I haven't read them, and not because they don't exist, right? But I haven't seen like company A before generative AI or assistants, co-pilots, whatever you want to call it, was doing X amount of releases. I think that's how you do performance in software development. And nowadays, after using it, they are doing it much faster. Or you know what I mean?
Same. I haven't seen any numbers, and that's interesting because usually, at least the companies who are selling those tools will want to show that very quickly and will potentially make a lot of noise on the market. But I haven't come across that. So I was wondering when he came with this point of view and say like, anyway, companies are much more efficient at coding and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, maybe, but I haven't heard about it.
Yeah. What I generally think is that is a new paradigm in the sense of, because again, speaking to people around that are using all these tools, even Dennis Sawaronsky, whom has come here to the podcast, is not something that we as developers are used to. As in myself, I still go to Google, search for Stack Overflow, find the Stack Overflow comments before going into the code assistant and asking, do this for me, right? I do it sometimes now.
Old reflex.
Exactly. So I think, to your friend, I really think that on these on the interviews, people will be asked about like, do you use any assistant? How do you use it? How will you actually train it?
That's a good point. Yeah,
that's something that I would expect. Maybe it's where she's coming from. And the other thing is that my experience as well, and this is related to what we're going to discuss today, is that when it comes to coding, there are two main challenges. One, which is obvious, is the copyright. Some code assistants give you some citations, right? Because the API is top of mind for every client. But the second thing is that the majority of people like to have their answers grounded within their code base, which means that, say, for example, if I ask the code assistant, write a function that gets an item from my inventory of items, imagine, I don't know, like a clothes shop or furniture shop. Okay, but you would expect that the code that it's that is being created somehow relates to the code base that you have, meaning that it uses the libraries that you use, it looks at the dependencies of your code, things that software developers are expecting, right, to use. So you basically don't. It's not like you don't want to reinvent the wheel, but somehow you have a style of coding, right? So there is a bit of a debate there, whether if I should have all my responses grounded in this code base that I have, mostly because of copyright and style, versus am I missing something? And what I'm talking about here is that because I do things the same way, maybe I'm missing out on more performant code.
Absolutely. You want a mix of both, I would say.
Yeah. No? And that's challenge, right? and that's challenging.
Yeah. So we're starting the episode about LangChain, and I was going to say, since I don't know anything about it, I was thinking to make it in a way like transparent and honest. I don't know anything about it, and Christian is an expert. So
no, I'm not an expert, man.
I'm going to...
I'm not. I'm very fast.
So I'm going to be the learner clearly in this session, and I will challenge you to adapt your language to make sure I understand everything. And hopefully, if anyone in the audience is at the same level than me, people will understand.
Yeah, let's just take a step back, like a massive step back. I think everyone in the audience most likely have already tried either ChatGPT, Bard, or any other bot of your choice and start asking questions about, like, pretend you are a techie and tell me this, or give me ideas for that, summarize this.
Correct that, translate that.
Just like that. This is great for a consumer side of things. However, when we talk about creating our applications, the applications that are going to be used within a business context, either for our companies or products, most likely we would like those answers to be related to our data, right? So if I ask a question about...
Contextualized, basically.
Exactly. You want it to contextualize and not hallucinate. simply, if you are creating an application for a shop that sells clothes, jackets, jeans, and you ask for a recommendation on the best outfit for October or for autumn, you would like this large language model to give you recommendations on items that you actually have on your inventory, right? So the community of developers put the set together since early 2023 on an easy framework to create those contextualized applications, right? So the concept was RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. Retrieval augmented generation is nothing more than architecture where you connect the large language models to your data. That's it. Let's put it plain and simple. I'm overly simplifying. There is a GenAI expert listening. Just make sure that I'm overly simplifying here, right? Now, of course, in order to develop this, you need a framework. And a framework needs a programming language such as Python, C#, so on, libraries. Yeah. And this is where LangChain came in. Okay, LangChain, as a framework to develop this contextual application, created Python and JavaScript libraries, but contains interface for you to be able to connect pretty much any large language model that exists at the moment to a series of data, and these are the chains. Now, let me just explain what that means, is that you can take the large language model of your choice, GPT, Gemini, you name it, right, Llama, and by calling that large language models, you can also use one of those chains. So, for example, you can use a SQL chain to call a SQL database in order for you to contextualize or ground those answers. The most common way to do this is, of course, to create a chain based on documents that you may have, PDFs. That is actually how it became more, let's say, popular.
But it's the interesting part, as you said, like it's trying to bridge to make two things coexist, like a large language model we're already kind of built in a way, and make sure it takes into consideration the data you want to bring in as another kind of input. So it will provide more accurate answers, if I'm correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's basically the basis of it. And this is kind of like, to me, that's the idea of this GenAI, right? Like it came to really democratize AI and made it much more accessible. Mm-hmm. Now, the whole point of this RAG architecture, the R on it, retrieval, LangChain made it simple to retrieve from different sources. I'm talking about document loaders, right? So you can load from HTML, PDF. You can do vector store, so you can bring the vector store of your choice, ChromaDB, Pinecone. We're going to have a more in-depth episode about vector stores. Stay tuned for that. And the idea of these retrievers is that you can assemble those retrievers with those embeddings, right? So you can actually, you got all this data that you got from your data sources. Imagine that you have a bunch of PDFs that you're loading into that vector stores embedding. LangChain allows you to do that in a very easy way and to retrieve the data using libraries when you are actually creating the application and doing the large language model response.
I like to make an analogy. When you start to say like it really enables you to retrieve the data, that made me think about pandas data frame. I feel like LangChain is a kind of pandas data frame, which is like for data scientists, like structuring the data into a data frame. And LangChain is really helping to mimic in that way to simplify the development process. I might not be explaining that very well.
But in a way it does, right? It's a good way to put it. Because when we talk about data frames, everyone starts thinking about pandas, right? Such as when everyone is thinking about LLM developing, people are talking about LangChain libraries, right? LangChain provides us integrations for that retrieval, for that, and really gives you those libraries. I really think that LangChain comes as this framework and that is here to stay, similar to what you mentioned, that the pandas framework is a great example for data frame and data manipulation. I think when we talk about large language models or GenAI applications, people will always refer to LangChain as that framework or a starting point.
Yeah.
And now it's actually evolving into providing, a REST API server. So meaning that you can now have your LangChain application, not only as a web app, or app, but also as a REST API service called LangServe. My point is that it's actually evolving into something way more robust as a framework, and the community is quite strong.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would say about LangChain, though, is that it is a typical case where you have something that is so general and so open that you can really do a lot, that for some people it may be a lot to digest at the beginning. It's the paradox of choice, right? Which vector store should I use?
Making the right kind of technology decision when you start a project, basically.
Exactly. And then am I indexing or vectorizing? And it can become like you can get into into rabbit hole very quickly, and sometimes a lot of what developers need is something really simple, which is I have a bunch of PDFs, let's just say, or I have a website that I want to index and I want to create a chatbot. Can I just do it quickly and faster?
And in that extent, like LangChain can help, because it really helps you to remove a lot of decisions.
Yes.
Those kind of technology decisions.
It can, but still it's a bit too general. That is when LlamaIndex comes in.
Okay. Second keyword.
Yeah. LlamaIndex actually is a framework that comes with a bunch of connectors, okay, to different sources. So you can just connect to that source and start asking questions to that source in natural language. It's not, it's much simpler, doesn't give you the extensibility as LangChain does, but it's really quick and efficient. It has its own indexer. That's why it's called LlamaIndex. You can bring your own if you are a pro, similar to what you can do with LangChain, but let's say that you're a newbie. Imagine that you have a website on your own and you would like to create a chatbot about a Q&A on that website, or you have a PDF or docs, in Word or Google Docs. You just use the connectors. Simple, connect to it and start doing Q&A on top of it. Again, it's not as extensible as LangChain, right? It's more plug and play. In that sense, it's not drag and drop by all means, but it's more plug and play, like there are code templates for each one of the connectors that the community have developed, and you can start doing Q&A. And as we were discussing before, this is like 90% of the initial use cases that people have. That's the thing. And that's why it's actually quite popular.
I mean, that's very interesting, as you pointed out. Much narrower in terms of use case, but LlamaIndex gives like kind of a wealth of integration. So if you go to lamahub.ai, so we are in early January, and the community, this is community driven, develops so many connectors. So I can see file audio, PDF tables, Google Calendar, WordPress, HubSpot, Airtable, Readwise, Stripe, WhatsApp, Elasticsearch, Firestore, Discord, EPUB, Flat PDF, Panda CSV, Google Drive. It's just like wild images, Wikipedia, S3, Notion. Is super wide and wild. The variety of connectors. And I think this is like the massive strength for LlamaIndex.
Exactly.
Right.
So it really quick start. It's like a quick start of your RAG application. Now, the funny thing, and not to try and make things more complicated, is that nothing prevents you from using both combined. Because of that extensibility of LangChain, you can use LlamaIndex as part of that index data source, right? Just as another retriever. Again, I haven't seen this in production, full disclosure. I've seen code snippets of both of them being used together. But I don't see why not, right? I don't see why wouldn't someone try it? As I said, LangChain in popularity and because of extensibility and the use cases is way more adopted than LlamaIndex. But LlamaIndex, I've seen it as a very crisp, quick start and gaining popularity because of that.
Massive speed to develop in terms of development and scaling, basically, for anyone. It's super accessible for anyone with like lower kind of entry-level coding experience. That means it's easy for those individuals to get into leveraging LLM.
I think it is a good way to start. Both of them, of course, right? But if someone would like to start doing any generative applications, I mean, I wouldn't look no further than these two frameworks. I'm sure there are way more, but based on the popularity and the trends and the amount of, as you said, of community contributions in terms of samples and how quickly it is to get started, I think this is a good one. I think we will hear more about LlamaIndex, my opinion. Because I think it's the typical, and it's not the same because you're not paying, but it's similar. Okay, similar to the build versus buy paradigm.
Yeah.
It's okay. So if the connector is there, you can do it. It's proven. Why wouldn't you just use it?
And I'm wondering. So I'm not entirely sure. So I'm checking quickly at GitHub. So they both completely open source or not?
Yeah.
Because I checked on the LangChain. They now also receive quite a big amount of fundings of money. LangChain has incorporated as a new startup, raised over 20 million in funding and a valuation of at least 200 million from venture firm Sequoia Capital.
It's interesting. LangChain is starting to monetize now.
But I'm guessing they're still keeping like some of their code open source. It might be like some specific functionalities that will be like paid.
Yes, it's called LangSmith. So LangSmith is their developer environment. Okay. Development tools, let's say, that allows people to monitor, test, and evaluate their applications. Right. So before we used to call this like, this is not necessarily distill or something like machine learning related, right? So it's not like fine tuning. Okay. And this is really important for people to make the distinction. So if you would like to fine tune a model, a large language model, what you're going to do is that you're going to make it to give you answers in a different style. So for example, if you're a person that writes blogs for your company and you would like to use generative AI to write those blog posts or social media posts and use a specific tone, like you use specific words, sometimes you might be more friendly, more chatty, sometimes you may be more serious. For example, if you're a law firm, you might be more serious. Fine-tune a model will help a lot in doing that, but it will still hallucinate, right? Because you are not fine-tuning based on data. So when we talk about, in the context of LangSmith, what is this test and evaluation and debugging and monitor is about the prompts that you are building on it to make sure that you're receiving the answers that you're expecting. So it's more around the test and evaluate hallucinations and also performance as well. Right, performance is quite a big thing because of latency. And you know what is actually cool is that LangSmith is it can be delivered as a SaaS, and I have seen it now adopted by cloud providers like MongoDB or Databricks or Snowflake. Now LangSmith is there as well. I think that's cool.
Okay. Yeah, I have another question. Like for those two frameworks. We obviously know like OpenAI, which released large language model. Like the latest one is GPT-4 or 4.5, maybe whatever. Google released a couple. Some of them are still like in beta or at least not completely publicly available. There is Mistral in France, etc. So there is like multiple large language models being developed. Anthropic as well, yeah. LangChain and LlamaIndex both giving the possibility to kind of connect. Can we say connect to those large language model?
Use them, yeah.
Actually,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And can we actually imagine a world where you will leverage a different language model depending on a different type of question or use case asked by the final user of the application, and you can, through LangChain or through LlamaIndex, like select which language model you want to leverage?
The answer is yes. I haven't seen, well, because right now everything is quite new and still like in adoption phase. But the framework, the LangChain, the whole idea that can chain, you can chain answers, you can chain LLM chains and do a specific type of chain. So there's an OpenAI chain, there is a Anthropic chain, Vertex chain, the framework gives you these possibilities. basically. So I think that's going to be the case, man. I really believe that we are going to get to a point where you will say, Mistral is really good. I'm just speculating, right? Speculating. Mistral is the best for Q&A or for SQL to text, for example, right? So text to SQL, sorry. Text to SQL.
That was basically the follow-up kind of question, and something I'm betting on, where depending on the language model, like some will be specialized and extremely powerful in some specific task, and that's why frameworks are so important, because they can really help you to switch between the models.
Yeah. And same goes for those vector databases, right? I have seen that now, like there are technologies, like there is a PG Postgres vector, there is now Redis, the memory, like there is vector.
Yeah, there is Redis.
Cassandra has a vector, Elastic as well. So my point here is that maybe by the end of this year, I think things will fall into place and a bit more standard, right? Like I want to put it into similar to what happened to BI or data analytics, where you say, you know what, if you want to do visualizations, best tools are Power BI, Tableau, no questions asked, right? Or even Tableau is the best one for visualizations. I mean, that's what the market says, right? I'm not the one saying it here. Versus, you need something that is super grounded into governance and a data model, and that's why the ClickView started, right? Or MicroStrategy or financial reporting. I think that's what's going to happen by the end of this year, but that's just speculation, of course.
You making already like the trends 2024 without announcing them.
Yeah,
this is mind blowing. First, I've been learning so much today on topics I had no clue about, or I just heard and read some kind of abstracts about this one. So it really opened my mind on. Yeah, clearly all this is being shaped at the moment. With this kind of technological shift in some aspects. So yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you, Christian, for sharing your wisdom today.
Yeah, no, I think I genuinely think that this is kind of like software development meeting and data and AI, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and we're slowly going to have more and more to. Like that, because this is more and more intertwined in terms of discussion.
But absolutely, we're going to put the links to everything we discussed today for people that are curious about it. And yeah, with that was a fantastic episode today. I'm using your line. So thank you, and see you next one.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode. This podcast represents our views and not the ones of our employers.
Our mission at the Data Coffee Break podcast is to inform you and help you grow in this always changing data field.
Follow us and get into the conversation with the community on our LinkedIn page and Instagram.
See you next Tuesday, and until then, keep your data caffeinated.